Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the ECAP Coach webinar for early achievers coaches working in ECAP-funded classrooms. This is Kelly DeBoer, pre-K specialist with the Department of Early Learning, and I'm going to introduce who I have in the room today. We have Karen Gann, the Training and Technical Services Manager, and Sue Rose, pre-K specialist.
Hi, everybody.
And Jonathan Green.
Good morning.
Welcome. So today we're going to talk about WELS information, entering notes, ERS follow-up, data collection has happened, now what? We're going to review coaching resources, give a quick update on the Hearing Center internships, and let you know when our next webinar is. And Sue Rose is going to get us started with a poll today.
Well, great. Thanks, Kelly. Sorry I'm a little distracted. I had to get something off my screen. So if you were a part of the webinar last time, we did a poll, and I was super excited about it. And I'm about to launch one now, and hopefully it will show up on your screen. What we're interested in knowing is whether you're actually using the Tidbits calendar. So Kelly, is the poll showing up on your screen?
It is.
Okay, great. So the Tidbits calendar, if you may recall, has different ERS and class little nuggets of information that you may want to use when working with teachers. And so we're curious if you're actually using those and you find them helpful. And we also want to know, like, if you haven't used it, if you want to, then we'll make sure to continue putting those together for you. So about 43% of you have voted. We'll just give it a few more seconds here. It's very exciting seeing these numbers come in. Oh, except that the yes is going down somehow, which, because it's based on a percentage. So 70% of you have voted. Okay, so we will go ahead and I'm going to close that poll, but it does look like about 35% are using the Tidbits calendar and finding it helpful and want to continue with that, so that's great. And 30% don't use it and don't plan on using it, but about almost 9% don't plan on using it, and that's going down. You guys are doing so good voting, so it's like we're at 80%. So this at least gives us an opportunity to know where we should put our efforts. So we really appreciate that. I am curious about the 25% of you that have chosen other. So if you want to type into the chat box and let us know what other means, that's awesome too. Okay, so I'm going to close the poll. And hopefully that's come off your guys' screen. Kelly, is it off your screen?
Yeah.
Thank you. Are we ready for Jonathan to move forward?
We have one quick question about the Tidbit calendar, and Jana is asking if the last Tidbit calendar was the first one that came out. And we first published a Tidbit calendar in December, I believe, and last month we did January and February. And so there are now 3, and those we are showing you later where to find those on the DEL website on the ECAP documents page.
Yes, and it's a great question because I have to look and see if I actually posted the December one, but it wouldn't really, it would be great because those are tidbits that work no matter the month. So if you would like that, you can email us if, when we go to the web page later in our presentation. If it's not posted there because I didn't post it, then we can make sure that we get that to you. And that we get it posted. And that we get it posted. everybody ready for Jonathan?
I'm ready.
Great. Jonathan Green, hello.
Good morning.
So you're going to talk with us about WELS. So here's what I have you talking to us about today.
Sounds good.
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 What you got going on with WELS to Coaching Companion update?
So we're still working with the folks at WELS and the University of Washington on getting the data feed going with the QIP information from WELS that will then feed into the Coaching Companion. So I'm still working with them. Hopefully in the very near future we'll have some finalization of that feed, and then you'll be able to see that information populating from WELS into the Coaching Companion. So, and people, of course, are at the beginning of the process in terms of getting rated and developing QIPs. So there may not be a whole lot of information at this point to send yet as well, but we'll let you know as soon as that gets set up. Hopefully by the next webinar we'll do that, but I'll let you know when that happens.
Great. Thank you so much. What are you talking about now?
I will talk about the funding tab in WELS.
Great. Wait, I just jumped ahead of you. I just wanted you to know. So good. We were eager to hear about this.
Right.
Because I've been out on contractor visits and have heard from coaches across the state that they're really interested in knowing how they should be tracking the funds that they've used with their site.
Right. It's pretty straightforward. When you're in a particular site, you'll see the menu at the top there from main all the way across through doc. And this is where you can see all the different information for that site. And then towards the right, as highlighted here, there's the funding tab. And once you click on it, it opens the site funding support window. And this is where you can enter the funding information for a site. And so under the type drop-down menu, you want to select the type of funding, which is the Quality Improvement Award. And then the funding agency, which is DEL. And then the purpose, and there are quite a few different choices there, which I won't go into right now, but where you can select the type of funding that you're using this for. You can also enter the, you should enter the date that the funding was provided, and then there's a little plus sign, it's not on the screen here at the very far right. It operates basically like a save button, and you click on the plus sign, and that then saves the information you enter into WELS. And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that coaches are required to enter the Quality Improvement Award spending in the funding tab into WELS twice a year, June 1st and December 1st. And obviously we're past the December 1st date, so the first available date for folks will be on June 1st. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more information coming out from the ECAP team here about any details and any follow-up questions people have as far as how to do this or what they should be putting there, et cetera. So we have plenty of time to address that.
Yeah, and if I can say something, it's Sue Rose, that the terminology we want you to know, it may be a little different for ECAP-funded coaches. So Quality Improvement Awards are typically may sound familiar to those coaches that are on the license pathway because those sites get an annual award, whereas our Head Start ECAP participants that are on the Head Start ECAP pathway get two different types of stipends or awards that we would really love for you to feel free to start entering the tracking of those dollars in WELS. Jonathan's right that, you know, we've got some dates available to try and help coaches know when to enter that information, but we would love to have you feel comfortable entering how you've spent the technical assistance stipends that you've, the majority, if not all, have received already, and practice with that. And Jonathan's right, more information will come on this topic.
And this is Karen. I'll just add that in a Head Start ECAP program, it may be that the director of that program has decided that they've designated someone else to enter into WELS how the Quality Improvement Award tracking is happening. So as a coach, you're going to want to check in with the ECAP director that you work with around whose responsibility it is to input this information into WELS. There may be someone designated within your program who's not a coach who actually has the responsibility of finalizing this job.
That's a great point. Thank you. Okay, looks like your next topic is activity log, entering the required webinars. I know that we wanted you to talk about this today because many of our coaches were interested and are interested in entering the required coach orientation webinars, as well as the dates that they have viewed the coach monthly webinars. And so if you can share a little bit about how they might go about entering that information into WELS, that'd be awesome.
Sure. When you're in WELS, when you're in the main landing page, not on a specific site landing page, but the main one of the tabs at the top is the activity log tab. And if you click on this, it takes you into the activity log. And this is where you can create different activities. And these are activities that are either specific to you, or you can assign them to certain sites that you work with. So these are a little bit different than the notes, which are entered on the site level and are site specific. So this is where you can put in coaching-related work that does not occur in a facility visit, such as writing emails to individuals or groups of sites, preparing for a facility visit. And just remember that the entries you make populate under a site's notes tab within a specific site if you assign it that way. So you can choose to just keep it general, or you can assign it to a particular site or sites in WELS. And just be sure to add the date, the note type, the amount of time spent, and a short narrative if applicable. Under the activities section, select quality improvements and select options from the drop-down menu. And also be sure to document your out-of-office and office time, depending on what you're doing. And then about the particular question about entering information on the webinars that you participate in, under the activity field, there's one, it sounds a little counterintuitive, but if you select out-of-office, it then gives you the opportunity in the second drop-down to select personal, professional development or training, which seems to be the logical choice to have as far as entering your webinar participation. And there are places where you can add notes, so you can put in what it is that you're doing in terms of that particular professional development. So there are other pieces of professional development you can certainly enter there as well. But that's what is pre-existing in the activity log that you can use. Again, under activity, selecting out of office, and that then opens up the personal professional development or training field that you can select, and then put in a note that this was a ECAP coach webinar that you participated in, for example.
That's really helpful. I appreciate that.
So we have a couple questions.
Okay.
Molly is asking, what are the 2 awards that the ECAP coaches are to enter?
So thanks, Molly. There are 2 different, and before I begin, I just want to say that what Karen had just said is important, is that you'll want to make sure that you talk with your ECAP director, because he or she may or may not want the coach to be the one to enter what I'm about to talk about. So make sure to loop back around with them. But there's actually 2 stipends or awards that are available for ECAP-funded coaches. So sites that are on the Head Start ECAP pathway or participating in the hybrid project will have received the technical assistance stipend, which is worth $1,500 per site, one time only. And those funds were triggered once the application for level 3 was completed. And again, that does go for hybrid participants as well, because that's actually the application that they completed. The other stipend that's available to Head Start ECAP pathway folks is the, and actually I can't say that this is technically still true, there used to be a rated participation stipend that was available for Head Start ECAP pathway folks that received it with rated level 4 or 5. However, with the conclusion of our Race to the Top funds, I can't speak to whether those funds are still available after starting this school year, so this January. So, but those are the 2 funds that you may have had spent already. Okay?
And this is Karen. I'll just add that your ECAP director should know about what awards have been received and how those dollars have been spent. Because you may be a coach who came on after the awards dollars were received, And so you're going to want to check with your ECAP director. If you check with your ECAP director and they don't know either, then please let them know they can contact the pre-K specialist that works with their program.
And also Manette Mason is available since she's our Early Achievers Integration Specialist too. So together we can help.
There's one more question.
Okay.
Molly's asking that she is an Early Achievers coach and an ECAP family service worker. Do you want me to document only my coaching duties?
Yes, only your coaching duties. Everyone's laughing at me. Thank you. WELS is specifically for the rating of facilities and support, such as coaching provided for facilities in terms of their quality improvement plan. So we want to be kind of primarily focused on recording that information in there.
That's great. Thanks, Jonathan.
Okay. I'll also add, if you are in the role of a family support staff, then you would be obviously needing to enter information into the ELM data system, and your program may have additional data entry requirements as well, either in ELM or in another location.
Yeah, that's a great point to make. Data collection has happened. Now what? So before we begin this section of the webinar, I just want to bring it back to defining the term data collection and when a site has had data collection versus when a site is rated. And a lot of times when talking about early achievers, we sometimes use the terminology like, well, my site's been rated, when really the site has, what that means is the site has had data collected, but the rating is not yet finalized. So when we are talking about these sites, it means UW has come out, they've done their ECHRs, their class, they've done all that they need to do, collected all the data that they have needed, and that's where we're at. So now what do we do? So in these next slides, I think Karen Gans is going to help us.
I am going to speak to this issue. Thank you, Sue. And we know that we have a number of ECAP contractors who find themselves in this situation where some data collection has occurred from the University of Washington, and they are awaiting finalized ratings. And I thought that I would start the process by talking just a little bit about what happened after the data collection has happened on site. I had a coach who asked me about what that process was and wanted to get some more information about that. So the University of Washington data collectors, they gather all the information that they need when they're on site, and then they take all their notes back to where, probably the University of Washington, where they work, and then they, and then what they do is they start scoring the information that they have, and these are tentative or raw data scores that they create. That they tabulate. So something that's important to know about the University of Washington data collection team is that they've created a group process that they use in determining final scores for sites. And the process that they have set up has resulted in University of Washington data collectors having reliability rates of above 95%. And I don't have all the details of what the specifics are of how they do that, and we'll be sure to collect as many specifics as we can for you and share that with you on the next webinar that we'll host. But I just wanted people to know that it is there's a process that they have set up to ensure that they are having the most accurate scores that they can possibly provide. So what that means is that so ECAP contractors have designated a grantee contractor staff person to really oversee WELS, and that person has access to all of the information in WELS for their specific Head Start or ECAP program. And that person, whoever that person is that programs have identified, sometimes that's an ECAP director, sometimes it's a staff person on their data team, sometimes it's a coach. You know, it really varies from program to program who contractors have identified as the sort of that designated role within WELS. That person who's been designated then assigns coaches to sites within WELS. And I want to say that when the designated staff person, when the designated ECAP staff person is assigning coaches to sites, it's really important that they carefully they look carefully at the sites and they make sure that they have the coaches assigned to the correct sites, and that they have the coaches in the correct role. Otherwise, what ends up happening is the coaches can inadvertently end up having access to information that they're not supposed to have access to. So the pre-K specialist team will be talking with ECAP directors about this to make sure that directors are carefully assigning coaches to sites. So the other thing that that happens is that the University of Washington data collection team puts this raw data into the WELS system, and then the designated ECAP, the designated staff at the ECAP contractor or Head Start grantee level, then they have access to that information, and then any coaches who are assigned to sites have also have access to that information. And so now we're going to go to the next slide, and I'm going to talk about why it's important to share early achiever scores only once the data is finalized and not before. So there are, so Child Care Aware has really shared with us the struggles that they had when they first started assigning coaches to WELS, and coaches started sharing raw data scores with classroom staff. It was problematic on multiple levels, and they learned some really valuable lessons that we want to pass on to all of you coaches working at ECAP-funded sites and classrooms. So one of the things that they found out is that it can be really confusing and frankly upsetting for staff to be told, it looks like your score is going to be here, or, oh my gosh, this is so great, look at what your score is, we're told we get to celebrate, and then to find out that the score ends up either being lower or higher than they originally thought it would be. It creates misunderstanding and other kinds of problems, and so Dell is really advising that you only share the finalized data in WELS with classroom staff. The other thing to note is that Child Care Aware, they made a decision that they would assign coaches once the data was finalized, and so there are going to be CCA coaches who don't have access to the raw data. They're going to have access to the finalized scores. So for sites that have coaches who work for Child Care Aware, and then that site also has a coach who works for with ECAP, it's really important not to share the information because this could create some inequities. So we're really hoping that that coaches and ECAP contractor staff will really think about the lessons that Child Care Aware has learned about, and then I can just also say that here at the Department of Early Learning, we're looking into some potential or possible changes that could happen within WELS or within the system so that so that coaches and contractor staff aren't put in this situation where they're having access to raw data and then inadvertently creating the dynamic where classroom staff get information prior to the score being finalized. So then what I do want to talk with you about is what you can do with the raw data that you may find in WELS. So once you have access to the data, it's going to be important for the ECAP director and the coaches or the coach to sit down together to make a tentative plan for how the information is going to be shared with the classroom staff once it is finalized. So you're going to want to make a plan around where you think you're going to first start supporting staff around re-rating readiness, if that ends up being applicable in your situation, or if you're not thinking that you're going to have to be re-rating, what your next steps as a program are going to be. So this could include focusing on areas where you think that staff have the best ability to be able to increase the most points. So putting your energy and attention in the places where you think you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. You could also start looking at, start researching training or additional classroom support that you would like to provide to sites once the scores are finalized. And then I think another way that you could use this information, besides helping you prepare and plan for how you're going to share this with classroom staff, is to identify trends that you see for the program overall, that you think that you want to start planning for and even potentially implementing for the sites within the ECAP program or within that ECAP contract. Do we have any questions, Kelly?
We do. Shayna is asking, how will we know when the scores are finalized?
That is a great question.
That's a great question. Hi, Shayna. It's Sue Rose, and there's a couple things that you should know about early achievers and the University of Washington's work is that they only finalize data collection and ratings on specific days. So depending on when a site was visited, scores will be rated on February 15th, and then another window of time when data collection happened, the scores will be finalized on April 15th. So that's one indicator. You'll want to be looking for those 2 dates. But also we can send out after this webinar, I don't have with me the UW rating cohort, but often if you were seen in the ECAP rating cohort window at the beginning part, starting from November 16th to January 15th, UW is looking to finalize those scores and ratings on February 15th. If you're seeing January 16th through February 29th, you can look for a finalized rating on April 15th. So the other part is for sites that are on the Head Start ECAP pathway, the QRIS inbox emails the rating reports to the grantee contractor, whoever's listed as the primary. And so they will receive that information. So that's another place that you'll be able to find that.
We have one more question. Shayna is also asking, what do we need to rate in ECHRS in class?
So I can say that for ECHRS, the minimum threshold to meet is a 3.0. And I cannot off the top of my head tell you about the class minimum threshold. But we can get that information out to you guys.
And we have one more from Kathleen. She's saying, I would like to see the class summary sheets from the UW observers. Can they be attached to the report?
Yeah, hi, Kathleen. No, I don't believe so. There will be notes entered in to share a little bit. They'll share a little bit of information on both the ECHRS and the class around some feedback within the tool to say why they scored it the way that they did. But at this time, no, they won't be attaching their detailed notes.
This is Karen, and I'll just add that we have heard back from multiple ECAP contractors that that's really challenging to not have the details of why the rating, you know, to not have the specifics around the rating, the final rating, and what I can tell you is that that is definitely part of the conversation around the Early Achievers 2.0 version, so the next version that is going to come out as a result of the study that has been, that's in process.
Great. I appreciate you saying that, because we do want all of the coaches to know that that we do hear you on that, and that it is a challenge, and it is on our table. We're keeping that in the dialogue. Okay. Oh, did I think I, oh no. So, Karen, I think this is,
oh,
yeah. So my site had a data collection visit. You'd have entered the class and ECHR scores. Can I share these scores with teachers? You can reiterate what you just said.
So I think that I already spoke to this, and that I forgot to delete this slide.
Okay, great. Thanks. See, look how quickly we can move through our slides. Okay, so I would just, I just want to make a quick reminder. Make sure that we have participants in the audience muted on our end. Just make sure that you may want to double check yourself to make sure that you are also muted. So what I wanted to say, this is Sue Rose, and I've had the opportunity to come out and visit some contractors. And one of the common themes I've heard from coaches out there is that they are really feeling a little bit of nervousness and anxiety around WELS, and this feeling of being, am I missing something? Am I behind? What are the expectations from DEL around WELS at this point? So WELS, for sites that are not yet rated, they may or may not have had data collected, we would like for you to think about entering documentation under the Notes tab. And I have a couple slides coming up that Jonathan can kind of help show you again what that looks like in WELS. But we want you to know we're really hoping that you do this, but right now it's still considered optional on our end. We'd love for you to practice entering anytime you go out and visit one of your assigned sites. Feel free to just hop in and go to the Notes section and enter the information. We are not looking for you to enter prior visits. We're looking at from this day forward, just entering information into the Notes section for your site. So Jonathan, I added a slide or two here, 1, 2 slides, that you might be able to better help us navigate.
Sure. And one caveat, just to jump off what Karen and Sue have been talking about, is that the only way you can enter notes for a site as a coach is if you're actually assigned to that site, and that opens up the whole can of worms that if the site has been visited, had data collection, and the folks at UW have entered that, but the site has not had its official finalized rating assigned, you would then be able to see that once that's happened in that point in time. So you could certainly be assigned to a site that hasn't been rated and hasn't had the data collection. You know, that data is in there, and you can still enter notes. But once the data collection has happened and the UW have entered that information, then it does become available to anyone who's assigned to a particular site. So just to be aware of that part of it. But for the notes, it's pretty straightforward. You go into a particular site that you're assigned to, and again, you have the different menu tab choices at the top. And mostly over to the right, there's the Notes tab. And you simply click on this, and this opens the data entry fields. And if you click on the Create button, this opens a new data entry window, and that allows you to enter the specifics of the note. And so once again, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just reiterate it. You want to enter the date, the note type. Be sure to enter the start and end times and the note status, and we suggest that you leave it as open, and that allows you to go back in and edit the note if you made a mistake or if you need to update what you entered there as well. There's data entry fields for narrative about what you did in the visit, the work that you had with the site, any plans for your next visits, and then the facilitator field, which is you, pre-populates with your name. And you can select a primary quality improvement and a secondary objective and click and save. And this is because the notes are primarily designed for after the site has been rated and you're working on the QIP, the quality improvement plan. But there are some other choices that you can put in or leave those fields undefined if you're putting a more generalized note related to the site. After you've created the notes, it will display some of the basic information as shown on the slide here on the main notes page. You'll see at the top you have different filters. Right now it's set to this week, so you can see all notes from this week, but you can set that back in time for particular weeks or particular dates, particular type of notes if you want to track all the work related to a particular quality improvement plan area that you're working on. So there are a variety of different options there once you start entering notes in there. If you click on the activity drop-down here on this main note page, you can see the objectives you entered for that particular note. If you click on the narrative button, you can see the text that you actually entered. So it's kind of a preview screen on the main note page without having to go into each individual note if you just want to get a quick glance. That's what's in there. We suggest that people enter your notes within 5 calendar days of your visit, just so that your memory is still fresh as far as your visit and what you did, what you talked about, all that kind of stuff. And we do ask people to double check your start and end times. You do have to put the AM and PM. Once in a while people put in interesting combinations, and so it's an endless visit,
Right.
or never-ending visit, and that may be true sometimes, but that's probably not what actually happens. Or that the visit didn't actually happen because you have like a negative time for it. And we can actually use this to track, you can use this to track once you've entered multiple notes, the actual amount of time that you spent working with a particular facility in terms of the quality improvement plan. So
Great.
those are the basics.
That's wonderful.
Thanks, Jonathan. Kelly, it looks like we might have a question.
We do have a question. Molly is asking, I believe, a clarifying question. Are we required to enter notes once a site had a data collection visit or once a site has been rated?
So the notes are primarily designed for your work on the quality improvement plan. And a site would not have a quality improvement plan until after it's had its official rating published. And that's when you can see what the areas are in the rating report related to where there's room for improvement, where the site is doing well in particular areas, the ECHRs or the class. So then you would develop the quality improvement plan on the areas you want to work on. And then based on that, you would be entering notes related to your quality improvement plan work, because you can identify the specific objectives that you're working on in the note that are connected to the quality improvement plan.
Thank you, Jonathan. And are there any additional questions, Kelly?
Chris has asked a question. She states our subcontractor directors are listed as the primary contact. Will the grantee contractor and the site director be given the rating on February 15th?
So Jonathan, you can help me on this too, but for sites that are on the Head Start ECAP pathway, it's my understanding that the grantee contractor is actually the one who gets the rating information, and that it would be their responsibility to then share that rating information with the sites.
That's my understanding as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So before we move to the next slide, we do know that, as February 15th and April 15th are coming up, we know that some of you may be really interested in learning more about that. How do you sit down and share the rating information with your sites, with your teachers? How do you then go about and create that QIP? And so what we're considering, if you think it would be helpful, coaches, we're thinking about recording a short webinar to really focus our attention to sharing data and creating that quality improvement plan. So, and you can feel free to give us feedback if you think that's a good idea and that would be helpful for you.
Kelly?
We have another question from Chrissy. She states it would be nice to be able to enter travel time along with visit time on the same note rather than separate notes. Also, if I'm required to include my time for entering the information, it would be nice to have that on the same page. Is it possible to have drop-downs where I can assign time for each of these tasks in one note rather than multiple ones as currently necessary?
And actually that's data that you would enter into the activity log, which is on the main landing page when you're in WELS. It's not on the site landing page. And the idea there is that you can put in different types of activities that you do, such as office work, the professional development, such as the webinars that we discussed earlier. It does have fields there for your travel time. And within the activity log, you can actually assign it to the event to a particular site or sites. So for example, if you're traveling to multiple sites in one day, you could put in your travel time and you can include multiple sites, and that would then populate into the notes section for those sites. So the thinking there was that you have one location for your kind of non-specific to the QIP work, your kind of ancillary work that you put in a central place, and then if it's just work that doesn't need to be assigned to a specific site, you wouldn't do it, but if it's something related to a specific site or sites, you can then assign it that way. So that's just kind of the way that WELS is set up with the different places to enter data related to activities versus notes specific to a site.
Well, that's really helpful. Thank you. Okay, let me get us to the correct slide. I just wanted to show that activity log slide. So I have a question for you, Karen.
Okay.
So what if there are two coaches assigned to the same site? Who enters the information?
So I just want to give you a little bit of background on this. We had this question come in from one of our contractors.
So what if a site has a child care aware coach who's been working on the rating readiness piece, but they also have an ECAP funded coach? Who's responsible for entering information into WELS? What does this look like?
So this is a great question, and I can say that that I can share some ideas of what I have for right now, and that I have a meeting actually tomorrow with staff from CCA and the University of Washington, and of course the Department of Early Learning, to be able to become more clear about this and provide some specific guidance. So the first thing that I can say is that some specific guidance is going to be coming soon. And in the meantime, until that guidance is there, one of the things that I can say is that CCA has specific requirements around what they require their coaches to enter, and then there are lots of similarities around what ECAP coaches are required to enter as well, and that in order to not create crossover, what what contractor staff who find themselves in this situation have found is that it's most helpful if the coaches can sit down together and make a plan around who's going to be doing what pieces, so that there's not duplication, so that one coach isn't saying one thing and then another coach isn't saying something else, because we know that there is potential for that in this structure, the way that it's been set up. So so we will definitely provide more specific guidance around ways to start that process, the types of decisions you'll want to make within that that planning time with coaches who work at a shared site. And in the meantime, I just think it's really important to be talking with one another, gathering information, and then for each person to bring to the table, what their requirements are for data entry, and then what they would hope to be able to have be a part of this as well, and then really work together to create the best plan that you can for that site.
Great. Thanks so much. So more to come. questions from the field?
Let's see. We have a couple of questions. Molly is sharing that when she has entered times before into WELS and then goes back to review them, the times have disappeared and she cannot re-enter them.
If you have a specific technical support issue, Molly, please go ahead and email us at the qrs@del.wa.gov email box. We'll be happy to help you out and see if we can figure out what's going on.
And yeah, that should not be happening.
Yes.
So thanks for bringing that up, Molly. If anyone has something like that happen in WELS, you absolutely want to email the QRIS inbox.
Yes.
So that's QRIS@del.wa.gov.
We like to refer to it as the Chris inbox. So.
Way to remember. And Shayna is asking, if you work with your site every single day, how can you record your visits?
So
daily?
I guess you would, I don't know, I guess Shayna, this is to Rose, I was just thinking, well, I guess I'd enter it within 5 days, and I might enter all 5 visits at one time about that information. I think that might be what you're asking, but I'm not.
And one thing to keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier as well, is it's really designed to be the repository for the rating information and then work related to that in terms of any quality improvement plans. So the notes and the activity log are designed to support that. So it's really focused on your QRIS rating, your quality improvement plan, if you have one, to support any areas you need to strengthen, and then the notes and activities you're doing to carry that plan forward. So it's fairly narrowly focused. It's not meant to be a repository for all the work that you necessarily do with an ECAP site or a classroom, as was discussed earlier, related to family support, things like that. So maybe think about in terms of what's the most important information that you need to document related to your really achievers participation, your rating, your quality improvement plan work, all that kind of stuff. And there might be other systems that you'd use if you're going to store other data that's not really connected to that.
And this is Karen. I'll just say that the pre-K specialist that works with the ECAP contractor or the ECAP program you work for, they are going to be having access to WELS here soon, and so they will also be able to provide support to you around any follow-up that needs to happen, like to help support you in what really needs to be in there, and anything that you may need to increase, or we want this to be manageable for you, so just to provide some support to you around keeping this manageable.
Thank you. Kelly.
Kathleen is asking, what are the Head Start ECAP requirements for data entry?
What are the Head Start ECAP requirements for data entry around WELS? Probably.
So I think Jonathan actually just answered that, Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one more, Molly is asking, is there any new information regarding the hold for hybrid sites?
Oh, thanks, Molly. Manette will be the one to share any of that information. Okay. So feel free to continue typing in your questions during this time, and we'll move forward. So just wanted to loop back around to the Eckers, what constitutes a violent book. And this is item 15 in the Eckers spiral. And we just wanted to point out and highlight that typically books that are seen as violent through Eckers' lens are Disney stories, old nursery rhymes, fables, stories along those lines. And these are books that may show dying. I always think of Jack and the Beanstalk being chased, by the ogre, that kind of stuff. So
And that's this is Karen, and that is when we checked in with the vaccine team at the University of Washington, they really shared that if you're going to, so to remember that this is 1 point, and that if you don't get this point, for them, the people who are, the classrooms or the sites that are not getting this point, it's because they have the types of books that are listed on this slide in their classroom and accessible to children.
Thanks for that clarification. I hear somebody typing, just, you know. So, and I know it's not Jonathan this time. Just make sure that you have yourself on mute. I also want to say that if you've used your microphone and speakers to listen to this webinar or any other, we're not able to mute you. You'd have to mute yourself through going into your computer to turn off your own microphone. Just a little heads up. So Kelly, are you ready to give us an update on the Herring Center?
I am. So I just want to say thank you to the 52 coaches that have registered for an internship with Herring Center. As of today, there are still spots available, so it's not too late to register. Coaches would contact the pre-K specialists assigned to their program to get signed up for these internships. And I will tell you that there's lots of room, May 23rd and 24th, and there's some dates available in June as well. So you'd want to choose from those dates and contact your pre-K specialist.
So Kelly, real quick, how does a coach know that they actually got the time? Yeah, how do you confirm that?
So once I receive information from the pre-K specialist team, I register the coaches with the Herring Center, and Herring Center sends me confirmation of that. And Herring Center staff will contact coaches directly and let them know they've been registered and connect with them regarding any travel arrangements that need to be made.
Very nice. That's exciting. I'm so happy that so many of you have decided to move forward with that. And we'll probably want to have you share your insights maybe at some point.
Okay, so this is Karen, and there are a couple comments and questions that have come in.
Okay.
The first is from Joan. Joan is saying that she wants to advocate, so this is around the violent book issue in ERS, that she's wanting to advocate for tribal sites that consider their myths and stories important cultural properties to be shared with children. They should have the last word on their stories. And I really thank you for sharing that comment, Joan. We absolutely concur with you around that topic, and just so you know, that is something that we are, it's on the table for us in Early Achievers 2.0. We haven't forgotten it, and we care about it like you do, and so we will continue to advocate for that.
Thank you, Joan.
And then Karen has asked, are the examples of violent books written somewhere for teachers to access? So I think, Karen, you're asking if there's a specific list of the books that would have violent content in it. And as far as we know, there is not a specific list, like here's the list, the specific list of books to not have on your list or in your classroom and have children have access to. It's just the general Disney or fables, you know, Grimm's fairy tales. And we'll continue to ask and see if there aren't more specific titles that we can get access to and share with you. Then Chrissy is asking if she's suggesting that, was Dell suggesting that sites adopt the new creative curriculum, that many of the books within the creative curriculum are included in what, I think what you're saying is that the books within the creative curriculum there are some books within the creative curriculum that are considered violent, and what our suggestion, our guidance is around that. So I can speak to that and say that clearly creative curriculum and early achievers, or ERS, are two different, they're different programs, different models, they have different structures, and you are going to want to, so I just want to remind everyone this is one point. And so you want to maybe have a conversation with staff around whether or not that that if the books that they want to have in the room could potentially be considered violent, whether or not that's worth it for them in their curriculum and their teaching and their planning to then not get that point in the ERS, and to work with them around what books they would want to potentially have in the room. So I just think it's an opportunity for conversation, and it's a conversation that we're continuing to have here in the ECAP team, and I would say in the QPPG division. And so I would just continue to have the conversation and then make the best decisions that you can moving forward.
Thank you, Karen. Pausing for any other items. Okay, so it looks like we have a question, or would you like me to go to the DEL resources page while we question? Okay.
So Heather is asking, when will they contact us regarding the Herring Center? I am concerned about keeping the proper dates open. And so Heather, thank you for that question. I've been getting that from a few coaches recently, and Kelly Keister is the contact person at Herring Center, and I'm making a note. I will send you her contact information after this webinar, and you can get in touch with her directly regarding your question.
So just a couple more on the violent book theme, and that is, do we have a list of the books, rhymes, fables available? And no, we don't have a list of those available. We just have the general list of what could be considered violent. And then so ESNA is saying that there are challenges around around this topic of violent books, that some professionals agree or think that some of the ERS books considered violent are not, such as Where the Wild Things Are, you know, other types of books. And so I don't know. So what I can tell you right now is that the data, the team from the University of Washington that's going out, they are following the guidance from ERS pretty specifically, and that this is, and that's not going to change right now, and that this is something that is definitely part of the conversation and topic for the next version of Early Achievers.
So what I'd like to do is have us show the resources that are available on our DEL website. Kelly, do you want me to navigate for you while you talk? I'm going to minimize this screen real quick. And one of the things that I've heard while out and about traipsing around talking with coaches is that our website, we have a lot of resources available, so much so that it at times feels a little overwhelming. So, but Kelly, why don't you tell us what we have going on?
So at the top of the screen there, you see the coach orientation webinars. These are the 4 required webinars for all coaches, and you'll see that part 4 has been updated with the most up-to-date WELS information. Thank you, Jonathan. And then we have more informational webinars. Those are the monthly coach webinars. They get posted each month. The handouts from past webinars are posted here. You'll see the tidbit calendar for January and February listed for those of you that did not yet have a copy of that.
And then the December one.
Great. And then all of these can be accessed through the del.wa.gov link, and it's on the ECAP publications page. And there's also resources you'll see around the ERS supports and resources, webinars, as well as class and information for hybrid project participants.
Thanks, Kelly. Oops. I just hit the link. That's how PowerPoints work.
That's how the link works.
I just had to check that. Hang on 1 second.
And so far, this is Kelly again. I wanted to say thank you to all of you who have completed the survey. So far, we've heard from 76 coaches, so we're almost there. We're aiming for 100%. So for those that have not yet taken it, please help us out by taking a few minutes to complete the coaching survey. This will inform the supports that are in place. And I will be resending that survey out to coaches who still need to take the survey.
Thank you. Okay.
And our next webinar will be Thursday, March 3rd from 9 to 10:30. And then for any questions, there's our contact information up there. And let me see if we have any more questions. Joan is asking, how soon will this webinar be posted as a recording? I missed the first half hour. Can I listen later?
Nice. Great, Joan. This is Sue Rose, and I will work to get this posted as soon as possible. So I would say within 5 business days.
And Karen is just offering us a suggestion that as we post updates on the DEL website, could we add the date it was updated?
Oh, that's nice.
That's a great idea.
Totally. Good thinking.
Thank you, Karen.
And then we can do that. Okay. So I would just like to say, we have just a few moments if you want to send in your questions. We are here for you. I want to say thank you for joining us live. And I've also, out and about, we've been hearing from some coaches that they can't participate at this time and day. So we're looking into what's available. We have to see whether we have the opportunity to even offer a webinar at other times based on the webinar schedule here at the department. But we do hear you, and we want to have as many coaches attend live as possible because we want you a part of it. So just know that we are talking about ways to best support you. Any okay. Any questions? No? Okay. So I will go ahead and close out this webinar, and until next month. Thanks so much.
Thank you.